of the early things I started was water drops, mostly with dandelion seeds, water dropping on top of a dandelion seed. You can get some really creative shots with that, and from that is where you start moving on to the insects, because obviously you're going from a still subject to a moving subject, and then from there you can incorporate the whole lot. So you can have water droplet with fraction photography on an insect, like with my damselfly image that I produced, or the one with my jumping spider. So yeah, it's the possibilities are endless. Yeah, they really are.
And that's really the beauty of it, because it is literally like, we mentioned at the very beginning, is that, you open up this window into a world that's usually hidden from plain sight.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah. Another good thing you can do once you've got the separate, you don't even need macro, you can have close-up setup, is go out after it's rained and you'll find flowers with water drops on them, and you can just take natural water drop flower photography. A lot of people like that type of dreamy look. And when it comes to that setup, set your lens down to the lowest aperture it can do, and you can get a really dreamy look, and you ain't got to worry about the whole image being in focus. You haven't got a focus stack. You're not worrying about something moving around. It's a great way to get into it. It really is.
And I think sometimes when you mention photo stacking, sometimes I think people tend to shy away from things like macro and even toy photography, because they think, okay, well, now I have to get into this whole other thing of learning new techniques like photo stacking. What technique do you use when it comes to photo stacking, for example?
Well, I'll talk about two different techniques, because we have full frame cameras and then we got the macro setup. So typically with older cameras, not necessarily newer ones, particularly older cameras, you have to do your focus stacking manually. So you're going to take your camera, you kind of take a shot, move it forward slightly, take another shot, move it forward slightly, take another shot, move it forward, take another shot. And you just get a series of images where the focus point is at different points throughout the scene. And then in software, we can combine those together, and the software will choose just the sharp pixels and combine them all together to create a shot where your depth of field is higher than you physically can get with the actual equipment. Because depth of field is something that inherently comes with the optics from your camera and your lens. So by doing focus stacking, you get around that. Now, when we come on to the more recent cameras and the macro setup that I have, you've got in-camera focus stacking, where you can set up the camera, you set where you want your focus point to be, you hit the shutter button, and the camera will automatically adjust your focusing point and take another shot until you tell it to stop doing that. And that's where it comes down to where gear matters, because the Olympus gear at the moment is the best on the market for doing focus stacking. A lot of camera systems, I'm not going to name brands, but a lot of camera systems cannot trigger a flash while doing focus bracketing. So if you're a natural light photographer, you're perfectly okay. But if you're using flash, again, you're gonna end up on the OM system. You really are for focus bracketing, focus stacking, particularly if you're using a flash, because again, OM system, I try not to be a fanboy, because I'm not a fanboy and I'm not an ambassador before anyone says, okay, I'm not an ambassador, but the OM system at the moment is the best at doing focus, stacking and bracketing in camera with a flash. So if you're using flash, you're going to end up on that system. You really are, unless the competition catches up.
Well, that's an interesting thing, because I have used my Nikon gear to do focus stacking. I actually never used a flash with it, so that'd be worth trying out. No idea whether that's going to work or not.
I have a question for you, though, since you are a Nikon user. Can you focus bracket while looking through your EVF?
That's a very good question. I actually don't know. I don't know. Because,
find out from, because I don't know anyone who uses Nikon, and I know Nikon does focus bracketing. I know it can trigger the flash with the bracketing, but some users have reported to me saying that you can only do focus bracketing by actually accessing the menu on the back of the camera. You can't look through the viewfinder while doing it. So for handheld insect macro photography, it would pretty much be useless, because you can't physically look through the viewfinder. But yeah, let me know, or maybe you can put something on down the bottom of the screen when you edit it to say, yeah, it can do it.
Yeah, that is a very good. I mean, it's actually a very good point. I mean, yes, in order to access the focus stacking or focus bracketing menu, you need to go into the menu, and there's a start button.
Yeah,
or it's a touchscreen thing.
You'd have to look into it. With the Olympus system, you can set it up so that when you press your shutter button, it starts the stack. You can look through the viewfinder, the EVF while you're stacking. And again, the image stabilization makes it very easy to get handheld stacks. If you're not doing handheld and you're doing tripod, then it frees you up to many more camera brands that you can do your work with. But at the moment, most people are leaning towards the OM system for insect macro photography with focus bracketing.
Yeah, so well, it's an interesting thing. I mean, obviously, you can set some of the buttons to, set to your whatever user preset it is. But I have to look into that. That's an interesting thing I haven't really thought about. Because in my case, I've used it on a tripod predominantly to focus brack mainly toys. So well, with toys, they're not going anywhere, so you're better off on tripod. But when it comes to, if you've got a camera that doesn't do in-camera focus stacking, then the easiest way to do it would be, and I'll go through this, okay? You want to put a flash. If you use a flash, of course, if you're natural light, ignore the flash bulb. If you put a flash on it, set it to a minimum power, then set your camera to a continuous burst. And like with this Sony one, you've got continuous low, medium, high. So you test each setting to see which burst mode can keep up with the flash. And what you're aiming to do is to get the most frames per second where the flash fires on each shot. Okay, so whether that's 5 frames a second or 10 frames a second, let's say it's 10 frames a second for a modern camera that it can do that. Once you do that, then what you want to do is you start with your insect out of focus, you press your shutter and you hold it down for a continuous burst with the flash going off, and then you slowly move that camera through the focus plane of the insect's head. So you're getting all of the shots that you need for focus stacking. And then you just throw it into the software afterwards for the software to do its stacking. And the software does a fantastic job. And I'm particularly using Helicon Focus at the moment. It will automatically align your images, and it will also adjust the exposure of the images so they're all consistent. So, it's like, it's a no-brainer. You haven't really got to figure it out much. All you got to do is figure out the fastest method for your camera, and then just hold the button down and just spray and pray. Literally spray and pray. How many frames do you normally shoot for, like a typical focus stack? Let's say for,
if I'm doing one for my portfolio, like the ones that you've seen, you're talking 100 to 200 images per focus stack. Bear with me. Yes?
What if you're not planning to go out anywhere?
No, I'm doing an interview. Okay. Come here, right. No, you've come in there, you're going to be on YouTube. Okay. Then my son just come in to ask, is typical British summer weather, it started raining again, so...
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, no. What is it?
There's a truck outside.
A truck outside, doing what? Oh, right, no. Right, go on then. See, you interrupting into interview, you on camera. Okay, thank you for letting me know anyway. Yeah, we've got thunderstorms coming in though. I can feel it in my head.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, then press here for the full episode in glorious Technicolor. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe.